Welcome students. I hope you are doing good. In this video, I am going to teach you Chapter 8, Part 3, The Dying Detective. This would be the final part of the chapter. So let's begin. My dear students, I am going to start from page number 116. It was with a sinking heart that I re-entered Holmes' bedroom. For all I knew, the worst might have happened in my absence. To my relief, he had improved greatly in the interval. Here, in this paragraph, Dr. Watson was very concerned about Holmes' health. So when he re-entered his bedroom, he was really thought that to his own relief that Sherlock Holmes improved a lot during that interval. Well, did you see him, Watson? Yes, he is coming. Admirable, Watson, admirable. Now you must disappear from the scene. There is just room enough behind the head of my bed. Here, Sherlock Holmes asked Watson whether Mr. Culverton Smith will be joining him soon or not. And then afterwards, Dr. Watson said, he is coming. And thereafter, Sherlock Holmes admired Watson and he said that you should disappear from the scene. It means that he should not be here. My dear Holmes, I exclaimed, I fear that there is no alternative, Watson. The room does not offer any other place of concealment. And don't budge, whatever happens. Just listen with all your ears. Then, in an instant, his sudden burst of strength departed, and he drifted into the low, vague murmurings of a semi-delirious man. In this paragraph, my dear students, Holmes wanted Watson to hide behind somewhere so he could be able to hear the things which are going to happen thereafter. And he said to him that he should listen it very properly whatever happens, but he should not do anything whatever happens in that scene. Then suddenly the murmuring sound comes from a very unclear state of mind which is in front of them. From a hiding place I could hear the opening and closing of the bedroom door. I could imagine our visitor standing by the bed and looking at the sufferer. At last, the strange hush was broken. Dr. Watson was hiding. He could barely hear the voice of the door, and he could easily imagine that the visitor who was coming and who that person is looking at the sufferer, and there was a very strange hush which was broken at that time. Holmes, he cried. Holmes, can you hear me? Is that you, Smith? Holmes whispered. It is very noble of you to have come. Our visitor sniggered. Do you know what is the matter with you? The same, said Holmes. I feel very ill, Smith. So, my dear students, you all must be knowing that this particular conversation happened between Mr. Culverton Smith and Sherlock Holmes. So as Mr. Smith entered the room, he sees Holmes and then afterwards he was just trying to ask him whether he could able to hear him or not. And Sherlock Holmes was very noble and he's very kind enough to give invitation to Mr. Smith. And as Mr. Smith entered, he was asking Holmes what the matter with him, and the Holmes replied, the same, I was feeling very ill. This is what Mr. Holmes said. Well, I shouldn't be surprised, Holmes. Poor Victor was a dead man on the fourth day. It was certainly, as you said, very surprising that he should have contracted an out-of-the-way Asiatic disease in the heart of London. Singular coincidence, Holmes, very smart of you to notice it, but rather unkind to suggest that it was cause and effect. As Mr. Smith was not surprised to see Holmes in this state, and with that he was saying that the poor Victor was now a dead man, and they both knows that he had contracted and he has been affected by some Asiatic disease. But this is something very strange coincidence, and Holmes was very smart that he noticed that. I knew that you did it. How? You did you? Well, you couldn't prove it anyhow. Holmes groaned. Do what do you call do for me? Let bygones be bygones. Only cure me and I will forget it. Forget what? Here, Mr. Smith and Holmes were conversating about something that they knew each other about that. Here, Holmes was requesting Mr. Smith that do something for him, and here was telling let bygones be bygones. It means that to forget someone for something done, right? So he was saying that just cure me and I will forget whatever happened. And then afterwards, Mr. Smith asked, forget what? Well, about Victor Savage's death. You as good as admitted just now that you had done it. You can forget it or remember it, just as you like. It matters nothing to me that you should know how my nephew died. It's not him we are talking about, it's you. Yes, I'm too ill to think. Here, Mr. Smith, trying to be unknown about Victor Savage's death, and then afterwards Holmes was asking him whether he remembers or not. It doesn't matter to him now. And Holmes was not in a situation to think because he is very ill. Listen, Holmes, there was a sound as if he was shaking the dying man. Do you remember a box, an ivory box? It came by post on Wednesday. You opened it, do you remember? These are the some words which has been said by Mr. Smith, and it was being listened by as if it's the asking box which came to him on Wednesday, and he is asking him whether he had opened it or no. There was It was no joke. It was I who sent it. Who asked you to cross my path? Left me alone, I would not have hurt you. Now, both Mr. Smith and Holmes are conversating with each other, and yes, he accepted that he opened it, and while opening an ivory box, there was a sharp spring which is inside the box. And Holmes was very angry about it. And after that, Smith said, do you know who sent that box? He asked him. And he warned him, who asked you to cross his path? And then afterwards, Mr. Smith said, if he had left him alone, he would have not hurt him. I remember, Holmes gasped. The spring, it drew blood. This box, this one on the table. The very one, and it may as well leave the room in my pocket. There goes the last shred of evidence. But you have the truth now, Holmes, and you can die with the knowledge that I killed you. Holmes took a quick, deep breath with the mouth open, and he said, I remember the spring which came was very sharp and it drew blood on him. And he indicated the box which was on the table. And then afterwards Mr. Smith said yes. He indicated and said that he don't want to leave any small piece of evidence with him. And then afterwards he said, now he knows and that he owns audible whisper. Any other service I can do for you, my friend? A match to light a candle. After speaking to Mr. Smith, Holmes' voice had sunk. Holmes said, please turn up a gas. That means a type of a lamp which uses gas. So he was asking to turn up the gas, and then afterwards Mr. Smith asked him if he could provide him other services to his friend. And then Holmes said to match a light to candle. I nearly called out in my joy and excitement. Holmes was speaking in his natural voice. There was a long pause, and I felt that Culverton Smith was standing in silent amazement, looking down at my companion. What is the meaning of this? He said at last in a dry, harsh tone. Here in this paragraph, Dr. Watson was very excited and very joyful as he sees the difference in the Holmes' voice, as he taken some long pause and he felt that Mr. Culverton Smith was very silent and he was totally in amazement, and at the same time he was looking down to him. So this is what the Mr. Smith said. What is the meaning of this? In a very harsh tone. The best way of successfully acting a part is to be it, said Holmes. I give you my word that for 3 days I have tasted neither food nor drink. Hello, do I hear the step of a friend? There were footsteps outside, the door opened and Inspector Morton appeared. Now in this situation, what happened is that Mr. Holmes said that this is the best way that he can easily act a part without having a food or a drink for the past 3 days. And now there are steps of a friend can be heard outside. So the door opened and then Inspector Morton appeared. All is in order and that is your man, said Holmes. The officer said, I arrest you on the charge of the murder of one Victor Savage, and you might add the attempted murder of one Sherlock Holmes, remarked my friend with a chuckle. Mr. Smith was good enough to give our signal by turning up the gas. By the way, the prisoner has a small box in the right-hand pocket of his coat, which might play a part in the trial. Now, my dear students, everything was in the order according to Mr. Holmes, and he surrendered Mr. Smith to Inspector Morton, and then the officer said that he has arrested Mr. Smith on the charge of the murder of Victor Savage. And also, there was an attempted murder charge on Mr. Smith of Sherlock Holmes. And Mr. Smith also had given the signal by turning up the gas. And also there was one small box which is in the right pocket of the prisoner which can play a part in the trial in the court. A nice trap, cried the high snarling voice. He asked me to come here to cure him. Now he will pretend, no doubt, that I have said anything which he may invent. As Mr. Smith said to Holmes that it was a nice trap and he had come there to cure him, and he, that means Sherlock Holmes, tried to pretend that there was nothing happened, and this is what he had invented. Good heavens, cried Holmes. I had totally forgotten him. My dear Watson, I owe you 1,000 apologies. To think that I should have overlooked you, I need not introduce you to Mr. Smith, since you have met earlier in the evening. Officer Morton took Mr. Smith to the police station. Here, in this paragraph, Sherlock Holmes forgot about Dr. Watson, who was hiding behind his bed. And also, he apologized to Dr. Watson because he overlooked at him. And then Holmes tried to introduce Mr. Smith to Dr. Watson. Then afterwards, Officer Morton took Mr. Smith to the police station. As Holmes sat down with a tired look, I asked how he had transformed his appearance so dramatically. 3 days of absolute fast does not improve one's beauty, Watson. When we have finished at the police station, I think that something nutritious at Simpson's restaurant would not be out of place. In the last paragraph, Dr. Watson was amazed to see the transformation that he had done so dramatically. And then, with that question, Sherlock Holmes said that with the 3 days of absolute fast will not bring any good into a person. Then afterwards, he said that when they will be finished with the procedures at the police station, then they are going to have something nutritious at Simpson's restaurant. Now with that, students, I am concluding the chapter. Thank you and have a nice day.